Right now, I have Mr. Sheldon Trim. He is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union. Good morning, Mr. Trim. And how are you this morning?
Should be. I should probably still be in bed, but then again, I would have been late for work. So, otherwise, I got.
Now, most of you would have heard the news recently about the introduction of a postal code system, and it's something that a lot of foreign countries have implemented, but it's very foreign to our country. Now, in the coming weeks, we'll see the introduction of these postal codes, and Mr. Trim is here to tell us a bit more about the rollout of this project. So for those of us who may not know, how has this been implemented? Just tell us briefly, how is the process itself going to be rolled out?
Okay, well, in the first instance, the process is being rolled out over time. In fact, a lot of the viewers would have already started getting the cards indicating the changes. Now, this program would have started about 7 years ago, whereby one thing that was done, that the entire country was quote unquote remapped, and then now begin to assign into different. For what we would understand, municipalities or different regions, and each region was given specific codes. Now, after that region has been coded, the post office within that area was also partly coded. Then it even goes down to the point that even what we will call the walks was also coded, and then after your house number is coded. So then therefore the information that you will see in the coding system would reflect your geography,
okay.
Which is district and so forth. It would reflect the post office, the walk number, and also your house number.
So what does a postal code itself look like now?
Okay, a postal.
So give me an example.
Okay, well, if you look at postal codes across around the world, you'll see that it will be either a series of numbers or a series of letters and numbers.
Right.
In our context, it's a series of numbers. So then, therefore, well, I forgot to work with one of the cards. So it's approximately about 78 numbers, and then you'll see like 0, 2, 3, 4, then 0, 5, and each series of double digits actually has a particular meaning attached to it.
Okay. So now, when I'm writing my address, I have to include that in my address.
And here the beauty.
So what if I have short-term memory?
Well, once you put the code, even if you forget what your address is, your letter will reach its destination.
I'm sure, like take for instance an old person. An old person may not be able to remember an entire code.
Well, for those who are not accustomed, and we know that as what I would term as a lag period, because any new initiative has a lag period whereby you have the implementation process, and then you have the fact that people get accustomed to the new system. Now, there are some people who will never get it, and there are other people who get it over time. So one of the things that you will find is that as those of us who learn at a different rate begin to catch up, you'll find that the amount of people who use the old system will begin to reduce over time. However, no one needs to fear. Once you have a proper address, still your mails will be delivered, because that even though we are under-resourced, underfunded, and not taken good care of, we have an efficient workforce out there whose institutional knowledge is of such that we have been able to find people addresses, if you see, without having a full address inside of it. So I don't foresee any major problems with it as it relates to the service that the public get. In fact, what I do believe, the service to the public will improve.
So you can now have a free delivery of meals, because like we were just saying, you just mentioned to me off air that there's a huge number of meals that goes back to the system.
Right, and the reason why a lot of meals go back is sometimes poor dressing. And sad to say is a few of our corporate entities are guilty of that whereby they do not give a proper dressing, and because of that, the responsibility that is entrusted us, we are unable to effectively carry it out. But so therefore, the postal coding system will assist greatly in reducing those numbers. You know, and then therefore the corporate entity will get value for money, because when you send something, it doesn't go, it is a loss. But when you send it and reaches destination, then it's also a gain.
I think so. Soon enough, gone would be the days where we have, when you see, you know, sometimes you're filling out a form, let's say a passport form, for instance, and you see zip code, and, you know, you're like, what is my zip code? I don't have a zip code. So soon enough, we'll see a change in that.
Well, most definitely, especially see that Trinidadians love to shop online.
Yes.
You know, and also that's why that initiative is so beneficial to the country.
Yeah.
Now, also tied it into that is that one thing that we are going to find that communication becomes it will be faster and would definitely be easier, and this would not just benefit. Firstly, context of mail, it will, the system will even go so far as to assist the law enforcement agencies. It will be able to assist the emergency agencies, because now they'll be able to locate each person, each resident, even much more efficiently and effectively.
And in particular, to single out the announcement of the Ministry of Works wanting to have the process of mailing tickets now to the offenders. So this would help greatly.
Yeah, most definitely. And well, now I'm speaking from the post office perspective, and as we would have seen in the public domain recently, where the minister indicated that our mail volumes have been declining, and he would indicate that some of the new initiatives they're trying to introduce into the corporation that will take us going forward, and this is one of them, and this S42 system will definitely assist in that.
What is the postal workers size now? Like have we seen an increase in postal workers over time, or a decrease in postal workers?
Well, sad to say, our industry is a reducing industry. In fact, that the size of the workforce, like if we go back before we were transformed to TT Post, the workforce would have been anywhere between 15 to probably 2,000 workers plus. Now it has been constrained down to something roughly about 1,300 yes. So then therefore we continue to see a decrease. Also, even though we have not had many new people coming on board in the concerning corporation, what we have found that is that through attrition, positions won't fill. So then therefore you still basically have the same amount of workers as we have back in roughly 2,000. But however, when they leave, nobody comes to replace them. So we continue to see a reducing of the staffage in TT Post. But
the work has to be carried out as usual. So which means now that you have either workers doubling up or something is happening. How is it going to be carried out effectively now?
Well, that begins now to bring an effective issue. Because whether you have 10 letters or you have 10,000 letters, the distance still remains. And as we was having a meeting with one of our branches, and one thing that one of the workers indicated is that the people who live at the final house, you know, sometimes you go into that street and you have to walk back out that street, and the last house always seems to get mail. So whether you have mail for everybody, but in order for us to maintain our mandate, we need to go. So what you have is that the work is still there, but the number of employees actually doing the work has reduced. As you would have indicated, now workers have now to double up, triple up, and it brings a lot of stress, it brings a lot of wear and tear on the body, because the job is labor intensive, it's human labor intensive.
Rain or shine, they are expected to go out there, deliver meals, although you have stray dogs attacking you. Do you have anything kind of compensatory when it comes down to if you got injured, like while working?
The corporation has a medical plan, right? And then you have the workman compensation. I'm sad to say there's nothing specific towards postmen in cases of injury, and that is one of the challenges that the union is constantly fighting for. And our greatest challenge that is the factor of respect, because we are not getting that type of respect from the management, nor are we getting that type of respect even more so from the government.
Yeah.
Because when the new administration came into power, the mandate that was handed down, do more with less. But the strange thing, what I tell you, we already had little, and then you're saying to do more with less. And we are not getting that respect. But if we were given that type of respect, then you would have seen things like a proper medical a comprehensive medical plan being put in place specific as a postman, because we are the elements consistently, we face certain types of challenges at a higher level than other people would. Because a person who's working in an office, they are not exposed to UV rays as we are, nor are they exposed to the constant change in weather. And once upon a time, I remember when I was a little lad, okay, let me beat you in alone. Yeah. And I remember we only had 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It was either hot, dry, or was soaking wet.
Yeah.
Now that seems to flip at the treatment, and therefore we have workers who work in that environment, and there are the health challenges that goes with it. Also, too, the job is a highly stressful one. Why? Because we have to engage with the public, and because of how our society is today, we live in a very angry society.
Yeah,
that the postmen are sometimes, sad to say, they get to feel the brunt of that environment. Also, in the context of crime, we have our workers are where crime is happening.
Yeah.
I remember one officer indicated the fact that there was a shootout between police and some criminal elements, and the officer had to run in a person's house, lie on the floor while bullet flying through the air. And these are the challenges that postmen face when we are out there. And that's why I say that we have not been given the type of respect that we truly deserve. Because what we are facing, those who are in power, they are not, they don't want their children to be doing what we are doing. You understand? And then therefore they don't give us that respect that we deserve.
Do you think that the work done by the postal workers are overlooked?
That is an understatement to the highest degree. Because if it is that we were truly valued and not only the fact that we are valued, also to be on some of the international responsibility, because what we have is the US, so it's the universal service obligation, then the government and by extension the ministry and CPO would treat the postal workers differently.
Yeah.
You know, and a high level priority, because the postal worker in Trinidad and Tobago, sad to say, is not like the postal worker in the United States, because the United States, that's a federal job.
Yes.
So then therefore, if you interfere with the postman, is not the New York Police Service coming to look for you, is the FBI. Now, if you interfere with the postman in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, we have some challenges.
Yeah,
you know, we had to call Uncle Gary to come and look into our situation, you know. And because the high levels of crime in the country, you know how that has its challenges.
Yes.
You know, because unless it's death, loss of limb, it isn't given the type of urgency, the type of attention that it should.
Now, in terms of salary, what was your last salary increase you'll...
Okay, well, I need to take that into order before I discuss.
I mean, it's a vital part of why we work. We all work for money at the end of the day, you know.
Well, there's a joke that we have within the organization, the Trinidad and Postal Workers Union, that is that it was reflective of the fact that when God looked at my salary, He wept bitterly. And it has to do with the fact that the salary is so low in comparison to what we actually do out there. In fact, that when we were in transition, it was stated that we were 25% underpaid, under-remunerated, and this would have been back in '99. And
I saw why you drank that water.
You need to understand what I'm doing that. And then even when we look at whatever percentages what we were given over the years, it still has not been able to bring us to where we're supposed to be. Added to the fact, a job evaluation was done in 2010, and that was initiated by the management, and the union gave it its full support. But what the evaluators would have recommended has not been implemented, and So then therefore, when you ask about compensation, even though we will, on Labor Day, we're saying in the Sunnyvale postman, in Sunnyvale, we're not getting that type of compensation. And hence the reason I indicated as earlier, the fact that we are not being respected as we should.
Yeah.
You know, there were some issues coming up with the job evaluation, but the core of it, well, hence, let me try to explain this. There were some issues with the job evaluation, right? Number one, that is no fault of the postal worker, nor is it the fault of the union, because the management would have hired the evaluators to do a particular job, to do some challenges in it. Now, when the matter went to the CPU highlighted what were the challenges and indicated what they can support. The management and the union, I can't remember the collective, but at least individually, we would have met with the evaluators, and they would have recommended what adjustments needed to be made so that the evaluation, job evaluation, can go through. And to this day, no government, not the present one or the past one, because yes, I'm talking about the past one. I'm talking about this report was submitted back in 2010. We're in 2009, 9 years. So no government has respected the postal workers to the, enough to indicate to say, okay, I see your pain. I see your pressure. I feel your pain. What can we do to get to rectify this and bring you to a point of respectability? I'm sorry, none of them have done it. However, the Postal Workers Union and the management of TT Post continue to champion that particular cause in the midst of adverse opposition.
So we're talking about the evaluation was done in 2010?
Yeah.
So from 2010 to now, they are aware of these challenges, but you just made mention that in 1999, it was indicated that they were 25% under remunerated.
According to international standards.
So that is 20 years ago.
Oh, yes.
20 years ago, we are aware of the problem, and yet nothing was done.
And sad to say, it's because there isn't that one, political will, and two, I believe as a society we have lost track of our humanity in a sense.
Yeah.
Because we are forgetting these people who are impacted by our decisions or lack thereof, and when we lose sight of that, well then people cry in pain.
I mean, and in a day and age where our economy is just, you know, some say it's growing, some say it's not growing, but you have expenses, living expenses, just increasing day by day. How now does a postal officer survive on a salary from way back when?
It's interesting you should ask that question, seeing that we had no discussion before as to what question you were going to ask. Just, I think it was this morning, I was, while I was at home getting ready to come here, I was thinking about the statement of a past minister of government. I won't call which government it was, but by the statement you'll have an idea who it was. And at that particular point in time, the individual indicated that they couldn't go to the grocery unless they have at least $5,000.
And this was many years ago.
And this was many years ago.
Yes. Now,
$5,000, he cannot go to the grocery. However, a lot of people in society and postal workers, sad to say, is because when you now start up, you are right or wrong there. Probably just a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And you not only have to go to the grocery, you may have to pay rent, you have your children, you have traveling. So then therefore, when you look at it, you ask how postal workers make it. In fact, the only thing I can say is by the grace of God. Otherwise, it's difficult. It's very difficult. And in light of the fact that you're going into a workspace that you can be injured.
Yeah.
Or you can lose your lives. And what we have to say, thank God none of our officers have lost their life over the context of the line of duty. But we have had workers who have been injured, who have been robbed.
Yeah.
In particular, when we deliver the old age pension and stuff, in recent years, we had some incidences that where postmen were beaten and robbed so that people could have illegally taken the old people check and gone and change it. So when you ask how the postman survived, and the only thing I can say is by the grace of God, because what is financially remunerated, It's tough.
Yeah, it doesn't equate. To live properly in 2019, I would say, you know, you cannot be getting a salary from way back when.
No, but no. One thing we look at is how much you're getting, but the more critical factor is that
The expenses.
what are you getting for it?
Yeah.
Because the cost of living is so exorbitant that what you're getting really doesn't match up, and every time we try to match it with increases, the cost of living.
Yeah, it's imbalanced.
Right. So that now I mean we are kind of stepping away from the postman position, but dealing it from a more holistic aspect. Sometimes I think what we need to do is sometimes not increase the pay, you know, decrease costs.
And funny that you'd say that, because someone on the show recently made the same statement, and she said, you know, you're increasing minimum wage, you're increasing this, whatever. CPAP 15% increase, URP 15% increase. But yet you have the business community on the one hand saying, okay, well, this is my time to increase prices. So it's a give and take situation. On the one hand, you're giving. It sounds good. It sounds really good. I'm increasing this. So here, take this. But on the other hand, the business community is just waiting there. All right, give it back to me. Well, and that's the cycle. And there is no growth when it comes down to the working class. You are put there, and your only way out is, how do we even know? I don't know.
And sad to say, that's why sometimes people believe that crime now looks attractive. When you have one society, one segment of society, now we are the working class.
Yeah.
We work, we produce. Then you got the business class. So when you talk about giving and taking, we are constantly giving while they are constantly taking.
Yeah.
And that needs to change. Because when we look at, like for instance, in the context of our banks, we have gone through what they call depression, recession, you call it. But however, their profit margins continue to spiral.
Yeah.
And when you look at a bunch of ridiculous charges they charge us, it tells you why the society.
I think one of the funniest things in banks, not to cut you across or anything, but I'm sure you'd be aware of this, is when you have a certain amount of money, I think it's under a particular amount of money, and they charge you to keep that. There's a fee that is on the money still. So, I mean, how reasonable is that? And it brings back to your point, humanity.
Exactly. Because at one point in time in life, the bank used to pay us
Yes.
to keep our money. Now we are paying them to keep our money. And until we begin, and to me, the fundamental problem is greed. Because there's a desire to want more, you have more, and even though you get more, that desire doesn't seem to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And then also we do not see our social responsibility, whereby in the book of Genesis, God approaches Cain and says, "Where's Abel, your brother?" And Abel, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And that's what we have lost track of as a society, that whereby that we are responsible one for each other.
Yeah.
I am happy to hear that the CPAP workers got an increase. I am happy to hear that the corporation workers got an increase. You know why? Because they are my brothers, and I understand how difficult life is. So that here they have now an opportunity to make a step forward. But however, holistically as a society, we have not seen the type of leadership that to me lends towards developing a holistic society. It only seems to be bent on developing a certain segment of society. Why is and only when it comes to the election year that another segment of society are given, as one person indicated, the crumbs. Because mind you, that 15% is literally crumbs. Because I believe one person did a rough calculation, and it worked out about additional $20 a day. And what do you call additional $20? Another guy said a box of chicken. So then, therefore, what are we saying to our children who are coming up? What are we saying to the future that we are creating? Because one thing that we need to understand, where we are now is because of what we did in the past. And are we looking to create a society where everybody have a true opportunity? Because to tell you the honest truth, we no longer have opportunities in this country. There was, I remember at one point in time, we used to have a large middle class, but that middle class is slowly dying off, and it's sad to say, I don't even think the middle class is aware of it. Because those on the lower end of the strata, their volumes, their numbers continue to increase exponentially. When you begin to send home workers, when you begin to unrealistically raise the cost of goods and services, what you're doing, you're literally creating a class of poor people and a class of rich people, and no society could ever function properly for any length of time in that environment.
And yet we hear the term democracy.
Well, or should I say, do we have, I believe that what we live in is an illusion of democracy, because we believe that we are democratic, we believe that we are free. But when we do not have the power to dictate certain things that we should, then we are not a democratic society. When we're discussing the fact of compensation for workers, the strange thing, and I remember, I think it was actually, I just saw the clip where the President Minister of Labour was indicating that the trade unions should not use what was the 15% as a benchmark and so forth. And mind you, I actually agree with her now. We should not be using what is given to the CPEP workers as a benchmark. What we should be using it as a benchmark is what's given to the politicians.
Yeah.
How the RICB board, how they apply their increases, how they handle their pension benefits. Let us apply that to the average man, so that we know what that means. Now I can work for 5 years and get a full pension. And not only that, when it is that anytime they are given an increase, my pension is also increased too.
Yeah.
That is where, and that's why I said I agree to her. Let us put the benchmark there, and then and only when we begin to treat all members of society with equity and not equality. Because the reason why it cannot use equality, because if I give a poor man $10 and I give a rich man $10, even though it is $10, it doesn't have the same impact, because the rich man, he just have more than $10, so that $10 really means nothing, and the poor man, that might just be all that he has.
You know, and it's funny that you'd bring up the issue of pension, because like many unions, not just the Postal Workers Union, not just the PSA, not just GTM, but many unions, they've all had one cry, and it's for an increased pension, or even pension payments for workers. You have these former workers, retirees, many of them died waiting for their pension.
And well, the first problem with pension to me is this: the same way we cry for a living wage, the pension must be reflective of that. Because here you have people who would have done yeoman service in their time to bring the country to this place. And all we do, we give them tokens and pittance to say thank you. Failing to understand is that the cost to live then becomes very high. Because then now, if you're a postal worker, then now the effects of all the time that you were in the sun and got burned by the rain, it now begins to take a toll on your body. And when you take the little pittance not to begin to take care of yourself, then you actually realize that you have great difficulty in really taking care of yourself, because your financial responsibility is not just medical. You still have to eat. You would like to see a country, because all the time you spend at work, you didn't get time to see a country, to travel. You know, all these little things we find, and like I said, we have become a human-less society. We no longer care for our age, because if we cared for our age, how we apply pension in this country would change. Most recently, a pensioner was complaining to me about the fact that here it is, I have worked all my life in the development of Trinidad and Tobago, and the person who did nothing getting the same thing as me.
Yeah.
So that therefore I'm being punished to satisfy. No, I am not saying that You don't give them something reasonable, you don't give them something good.
But it can't be the same.
So then therefore, and hence why it says, we do not want equality, we want equity. So that which means that those who truly deserve, bring them up to a reasonable space.
You know, so many times I would talk to pensioners and they would have the same story. It's like, you know, these are people who have like over 20, 40 years in the public service, and you're sitting home waiting. If you do get your pension, you're lucky, and when you do get it, it's the same amount the person who, like you just said, hasn't worked a day in their life, but you're receiving the same amount of money. And I think it goes back to your main point, disrespect.
Well, yeah, and sad to say, we continue to support those who are disrespecting us. There has to come a time that when we need to truly take responsibility for ourselves and demand that respect.
I think the working class more so now more than ever needs to understand the power they have and act wisely. I mean, we're into an election season, so the power is in the working class. It's in our hands.
And I'm in full agreement with what you said. The fact that I remember, in fact, I would have done it when I meet with our officers, our members. I tell them straight up now, I have my own particular political persuasion. But however, whatever persuasion you are of, don't just give them your vote. You're now also supposed to give them your hopes, your dreams. And if they are not living up to your hopes and
that's
dreams,
why there's a manifesto, because they are offering you something.
Right, but and you don't just take what they offer. You demand that they give what they offer and offer in the context of what benefits you.
Yeah.
Because when you see what is actually done, sad to say, it only benefits a percent that is less than 2. You know, so then and therefore this is something that we have to fundamentally change. We are the 99%. Why should the 99% continue to suffer for a 1%? Something I don't know. That maths don't seem to work right in my head, because something is fundamentally wrong with it. Why is it that we have gone through so much oil booms and gas booms, so much so to the point that if we were truly operating with equity, a person would only be a vagrant because they want to live on the streets.
Yeah.
Mind you, because there are people who are like that. They want to live there. But barring that, there are people who don't want to live there. But they were forced in that position because of why? Because the decisions being made does not actively support them. Why is it that when we go through a recession, the first thing comes to mind is send home workers.
That is the first thing.
But here the joke, we want to be like first world countries. But when you go to some first world countries, what do they have? They have unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
So that
you actually get a stipend while you're home.
And you're not getting a stipend, just stay home and put it. No, you get a stipend so that you can actively, so that you can live. And two, that you also have an opportunity now to probably retool yourself to go back out there again. But I'm sorry, I am not seeing that in our society. The politics of the 1960s, they're still here, and we're in 2000. And the strange thing about it is only when it is convenient to those in power to talk about change and being first and going forward in certain things, then they will push that, because as I don't know if determine your cameraman would have indicated that they have to find out a way how to make money out of it. You know, and that was what we had to fundamentally change. But the only time we can truly begin to change that is when we begin to change it by, number one, accepting first respecting ourselves, accepting responsibility for ourselves, and demanding it from all those who are wrong us. So then therefore, when the politician comes to me for my vote, number one, they must come respecting me, and two, as Comrade Roger says, you come and ask me for a job. Now, some people may, because Comrade Roger said it and take it by being no, it's a truth.
It is.
Every politician who is in power, they're there because of us. We employ them.
We put you there.
So if you put you there to work for us, then you need to work for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And therefore, some of the policies need to change. The Industrial Relations Act of Trinidad and Tobago It's the
That's
worst.
like a ghost or something. You hear a lot about it, but you don't see anything.
And sure, you know the funny thing about it? Sometimes we look up the islands and we call them small islanders. And we think that they are less than us. But when you look at their labor legislation,
they're not operating in the 90s.
But they are far superior, superior to us.
Yeah.
But, but it was good.
So I'm going to ask you your closing comments.
Well, as I would have said just now, is that we have a responsibility to ourselves. And to a degree, the reason why we're in the situation we are now, because we are abdicated that responsibility. As workers, as the working class, let us begin at number one, respect ourselves. Two, accept responsibility for our future. And then therefore, those are going to be the basic principles that will guide us going forward. And there inside of that, we will be able to make the type of changes that needs to be made. Because at the end of the day, if we don't work, I do not care how much millions of dollars you have in the bank, that nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
If the TNTech workers decide they're not going to work, then we will have no electricity. If WASA workers decide they're not going to work, then we're going to have a serious water problem.
Yep.
So, and I'm not saying that we need to strike, but what I'm saying is that we need to respect ourselves and begin to demand that respect. And then begin to engage in activities that will ensure that we have a comfortable future, that we deserve like everyone, like everybody else, and that we leave a proper legacy for our children to come.
I don't think you could have put it any better. Thank you so much, Mr. Trim.
And it's a pleasure.
You know, a very, very engaging and healthy discussion here this morning with the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union. So much is happening, and we will soon see the introduction of postal codes, like you indicated. It has started already.
It has started already.
So soon enough we'll find. How long is the code?
I think
like about 8 numbers?
Yeah, 8 numbers. But I can remember my ID card number. You know why? I wrote down over and over and over, and eventually it sticks.
Listen, I am
so
terrible.
When you get your code,
I am terrible with numbers, so God knows.
No, but it's easy. When you get your code, just sit down, write it over and over and
That's
over.
like penance.
Yeah. But trust me, you remember.
So I wish those of you luck, those of you who are like me, who are terrible with numbers. Yeah, I don't even know my own ID card number, and I'm not ashamed of that. Like, I can't remember numbers. I just can't. So if anybody has another way of remembering numbers, apart from writing it down over and over, just let me know. All right. This is PAC TV. We'll be right back.